Very formal. Hi, this is Matt Kendall here. Today I'm joined by John Harrison, who did the IEMT online training. We're trying to determine it. It was sometime this year. So it was a few months ago. When people do the training, they then go and do a couple of case studies, which means working with two clients who they don't know, don't have any sort of previous connection or knowledge about, where they get to use the IEMT skills, which they've learned obviously on the course. Of course, today John has done that, and today I will be certifying him, so he will be a practitioner of IEMT, so well done. And he'll be getting his certification later on today. We've just been having a chat. We just go through his case studies, but this conversation really is about for people who are thinking about maybe learning IEMT, and rather than just reading a little one-page or one-line review on something, I like to give people the real experience of what it's like to go through the training and a real person. So it's not just some sort of review online. This is an actual real person's experience. So John, we've just been discussing, he's very tanned to say he lives in the UK. We're in the roasting sun. It's been the hottest week ever, I think, in the UK. But John, before we get into this, what was your background before you, I know, you had sort of different career beforehand, but what was your sort of knowledge of therapy, and what was your work and your experience before you came across IEMT?
I'm a former sector worker, and I've had decades working with individuals with addictions and traumas and the likes. And it's areas that are very dear to my heart, if you like. So I've spent about 3 years schooled and stable by about now 10, 11, I'd have to double check, aspects of what I do, from EFT to EFT through to clean language, clean space with David Grove, hypnotherapy, NLP, and now IEMT, and also EMDR. But that all said, like any therapist, you find your niche in terms of your style and how you want to put that all together in the package. But I've been very impressed with integral eye movement therapy, because, as we were just discussing briefly, it seems to get to root cause, putting the control of the session into the client so they can calibrate and have that sense that they are doing the work, and it's not just something that we are trying to install, or it's real, it's tangible for them, and it's very impressive, I have to say.
Brilliant. So you've got quite a wide knowledge and experience in different therapies and models. And you're saying you're working with addiction, and was it PTSD you were mainly working with, or
traumas?
So traumas, PTSD, and all that kind of all those kind of cases. So how did you first hear about IEMT? What was your first experience, and how did you get to know about it?
Myself and a colleague were working with a good friend of mine, and he mirrors my life story almost, and he was on the course, and he said, look, I've just learned a few things, I want to go over them with this individual. And I was very impressed, because the context and the style of the protocols, techniques, and the likes just made sense, and I was just applying it to my knowledge and what I know, and I was very, just thought, wow. And then when I heard, the people that were involved with Andrew and Andrew's past, I was impressed, because it just gave it more credence in my book, and so therefore I just contacted your good self, joined the Facebook group, which I'd advocate anyone to do, to have a look, just have a look around and get a feel for it. It's a great community, and the course itself is a brilliant value for money, because you just learn so much to help people, and primarily that's at the heart of what we want to do.
Of course, absolutely. So, and it was Andrew Austin, for people who don't know who you're referencing there, and obviously he was one who created and developed IEMT. There's an interview I've done with him on my YouTube channel. It's easy to find. So you got it through recommendation, through somebody else, and then did they try things out with you as well? Did you get to experience it, or?
Yeah, I had some personal work done, and it was very, very effective. And I could see how it's a unique experience, in the sense of you're doing the work and we're there to assist just through and facilitate almost. So it was very impressive, and you know, spending the money, it's a great investment to get through to this point where it's still new and fresh and it's as a skill, but the more we rehearse and practice it, the more confident you'll get.
Well, absolutely. You know, it's like with any skill, and excuse me, IEMT is a set of skills. It's not, I suppose it's not philosophy really, but it's a way of working. Absolutely. And then did you go, then you, because somebody who did my course, and then did you go through any of the content that I do, any of the videos? Did you sort of research that at all?
Yeah, I spent time on your website and researched Andrew, and was very impressed because he was schooled by Steve Andreas, who I've looked at in his work a lot, and you know, it's given a lot more credence in terms of his pedigree, if you like, of what he's done. And likewise the interaction with David Groves, who's played a part in this, which is very impressive. I love David's approach to clean metaphors and movements, which are very good for certain styles of therapy and the like. So yeah, it all made sense. It all just comes together beautifully in terms of
because I try to put a lot of, like, this is like content. I try to put information out there to, you know, to research, because when people come across like or hear about IEMT, sometimes they have no idea what it is. So I try and provide as much information as possible to try and educate people into what it really is. And essentially what IEMT is, it's people who are stuck within their patterns of behavior, and how we then use eye movements at precise points to basically help remove them or free them from these patterns of basically how they stay stuck, their chronic patterns basically. And this works especially well with people with anxiety and depression, but also a big focus that we have is obviously on PTSD and trauma, and how we can overcome, but how we can distance ourselves from it and begin to change. So you went through was it the 3-day one that you went through, or was it the weekend? So I do 2 different ones.
It was the weekend course.
It was the weekend course, yeah. Okay, so it was a 2-day course. If people are wondering, I do a 3-day during the week where it's slightly shorter hours, or a whole weekend. So how did you find, because it was virtual, you attended from home. How did you find sort of going through the course? What did you think of the training? What did you think of the content? What did you think about the exercises? What was it like as an experience going through?
It's very concise, very well delivered. There's plenty of scope to ask questions and really drill down, you know, any aspects that you're not sure about. And I thought the manual was very good at the end. We've now got this practice group, which is also very good. And it all came together nicely in terms of, because once it's fresh in your mind, I find when I put out this, asking for 2 case studies, which I got quite quickly, it then gave me a bit of scope, say a week, just to rehearse and go over it all and really cement it in my head before I actually went into it, and very impressed with the outcomes.
Brilliant. We'll get onto that in a sec, because like I said, because you go through the weekend. Now, some people are thinking, you know, they might be in a different country, or they might think, well, you know, training from home is not really like a live experience. But the way that I do it, I use breakout rooms. Excuse me. So, but the way that I train is like 4 steps: the introduction and the explanation of the module, then a demonstration. So I'll actually do it with one of the people who are attending. You then go into a private room with 1 or 2 of the people maximum, depends on what it is, to try it out for yourself. Then we all come back to the main room and we review to see if you have any questions, anything you want to ask, anything you want to tell, and what your experience was like, before we then move on to the next module. And everything is very, very modular. So I know on some courses it's quite sort of theoretical and kind of abstract, and I'm not very good at that. I need to know exactly what to do, in what order, what's the outcome. If it doesn't work, what can I do? And so it's a very, very structured approach towards doing it.
It is, and the practicals help a lot, you know, to get your hands dirty, so to speak, in terms of having the experience yourself of applying it and having it on you. It leaves, you know, builds your confidence, definitely. So it's a good course.
Yeah, Thank you. So after the course, like I say, you do 2 case studies, and this is working with 2 people who you don't know, preferably, for doing 2 one-hour sessions or up to an hour sessions with each person, and then there's a write-up. I do provide for people, once they've attended the course, they get an information pack after they've attended, and that has the case study template. It's got case study examples, so you can read through them, and I'll also give you the criteria that I'm specifically looking for, so I can certify you. You know what I mean? It's not an exam. It's like, this is what I'm telling you the answers. This is what I need to show. And it doesn't have to go right, as in it doesn't have to be a positive result. I just need to see that you've done it, because IEMT doesn't work all the time. It works most of the time with most of the people, and it is outcome free. It's an exploration of the problem as opposed to a solution for the problem. It helps the client to explore the problem themselves, and they actually have their own resources within them to actually, you know, go through it. So let's get to the actual case studies yourself. So you did 2 case studies. Yep. How did you find taking the, well, first of all, I saw you put an advert out on Facebook and you had a massive response, didn't you? Loads of people wanting to come and work with you, which, you know, I would contact again later to say, look, I'm now certified. So I've got a lot of people wanting, and the thing is as well, is that once you start doing IEMT, once you've worked with somebody and their friends, families, colleagues, whether see the effect it's had on them, you start to get a lot of inbound inquiries from people, because it's the effect is immediate, you know, really is immediate.
And it's meeting the needs of the individual. You know, there's a lot of people out there, especially post-lockdown, that have got negative emotions, feelings, and the likes stored within them.
Of course.
Being stuck in the house and everything that's gone on. But the demand is definitely there, and you will get your money back quite quickly, I'd imagine, in terms of it's a good investment in that sense.
Essentially, it depends on the sort of levels you're charging. 1 or 2 clients pays for the course easily. 1 or 2 clients.
Exactly. I would agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. So if anyone's worried about, you know, a return on the investment for doing the course, I would say it would pay off quite quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. It really would, because I could charge a lot more for this, but I want to make this affordable. I prefer to have a lot more practitioners doing this and using it than charging loads and having half the amount of people. But that's just, I just want to get IEMT out there, really. So how was it taking the stuff from the manual, from the training, to actually working with people who have no experience with IEMT? What was it like applying it, and what kind of results do you help these people to generate?
I think the biggest hurdle for me was just understanding the flow, and that it wasn't rigid and it is very fluid. But you've got to start somewhere, and you know, initially I used the intake form process. It was very good because it allowed me to see on paper what the problems were in terms of aspects of identity and feelings, or, you know, which is obviously a key part. The notions of patterns of chronicity do come out and stand out a lot as well. So you get a good heads up before you even get, you know, engaged with the client, which is always good because you're on the front foot. And it gives you you know, the plan that you give in terms of how to structure the study cases, I'd say is spot on to start with, for sure, because you've got a process of flow. Stick to the plan that Matt gives you, you will get the results, you know. And as in terms of the exploration, you know, if the results happen, brilliant, but you know, you've stuck to the plan as the point.
So, and because I like to make it as formulaic as possible, really. And the better you get at the rules of IEMT and the structure of it, the more you can then work on initiative, sorry, as stuff's kind of coming up. But that's like the more you practice. The important thing is everything we do in day 1 is to do with emotion and memory. Everything we do in day 2 or session 2 is to do with identity of themselves and other people. And there's sort of PTSD and stuff to kind of go in there. So with your case studies, obviously without giving away into personal information, just tell me about with your case studies, what kind of issues were your clients experiencing, and how was it working with them, and what kind of results were you able to help them generate?
There were quite similar overlaps in regards to the notions of sadness, anxiety, and depression, links to adverse childhood experiences, but it was obviously content free. Once we got the labels contextualize it, that allow us to work on.
Yeah.
And it was quite easy in some regards initially, asking that question. So what is the problem? Get straight into the heart of where we need to go. But applying techniques around it, I love the 3 principles. When I saw that, it just makes a lot of sense in terms of how behavior is structured of old, and what is driving it in some respects is what we've learned, and obviously what is learned can be unlearned. But yeah, to realize how multifaceted it is, and it can be as deep and as wide in some respects in terms of how it's all linked. But once that's dealt with, the outcome can be very profound for individuals, as I've seen, and it's just very satisfying to know that they finally freed themselves of that particular aspect of what was.
And so with the clients that you worked with, your case studies, what was it like? What kind of results did they actually get in terms of before they were sad, they were depressed, they were anxious? What was it like? Because between the 2 sessions, there's usually quite a big shift. Then you do the work in the second session, then we try to get you to contact them later. So what was it like between the 2 sessions, and then what was it like afterwards?
I'd say that because they've both been through quite a bit of other types of therapy, and this is what really stood out for me, is when they've released all this stuff that's pulling them back and part of the problem, they find what they wanted in the sense of happiness, contentment, inner peace, and these wonderful qualities that are obviously in there. They've just forgotten that they're still there. To see both people smile at the end genuinely, because I'm not, is just very rewarding, because you've done good work.
Because we're not trying to install any positive beliefs. We're not trying to put big happy feelings and project, we're not trying to pull things out or anything still like this. IEMT essentially only works on negative stuff, negative beliefs, negative identities, negative memories, negative identities of other people. And once you work on those, people are okay. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to then create a false positive. Now, part of the IEMT is a PTSD protocol. Now, I know you've worked with PTSD before, and the way that we work with it is kind of like a clock face. You kind of work around, it's like a timeline kind of structure, which I know that you did on one of your case studies. And how did you find, so somebody who's suffered from PTSD, and what we're looking for is what's called the linchpin. That's the thing in the middle, which is holding it all together. How did you find going through the PTSD process?
Very powerful. It's, to give an explanation, I use the backdrop of my own story, which is quite profound, but to show them that we reframe it in a way that is sensitive, allow them to look at it from a different perspective. And then I find that this lady just simply said, well, if I could get rid of this, that would be the difference that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And we did. And, they tend to, because they're comfortable with the flow of what that model does, they've had those experiences before, they've noticed the shift, then you've got their trust and confidence rapport, and bang, to free anybody of trauma is just a gift. And that's what it's very powerful.
Brilliant. Now, we were saying it before, because you've done NLP training, EMDR, hypnotherapy. So I like IEMT to play well with others. So basically, I'd like say, take what you're doing here and use it with other things as well. It's not an exclusive model.
Sure.
But how do you say IEMT kind of compares to the other things that you've learned in the past in terms of flexibility and the results and the ease of use compared to other models you've learned?
I'm getting the sense I can see the power behind this. It flows concisely, it gets good results, and I would even say it's now going to be one of my preferred options, combining with the likes of hypnotherapy, clean language, which obviously David Grove's work done. But it's just finding your style, working with the clients, knowing what's going to work with that client.
Absolutely.
and the likes.
So for your work, for your private practice, should we say,
Yeah.
what kind of impact has IEMT had on your work, and basically also financially? What do you think sort of changes it will have on your work?
Well, for me, I'd say professionally, it's added a layer of professional confidence, you know, to really get to the heart and know that I've got things that are hypothetical tools in my box that I can use, and this would be my go-to.
Yeah,
for sure.
Excellent. John, thank you so much for giving us your feedback today. For those people who are watching at home, who are researching IEMT, they might be looking at training with myself or somebody else, it doesn't matter. For those people who are on the fence, who are thinking about maybe doing it, but like, do I want to do a whole weekend of this eye moving weird stuff? What do you have to say to those people who are just sat on the fence at the moment?
Don't hold back. You will add to your skill sets in terms of how you can address clients and their problems, and you will get it's a good return on investment for sure. I can see how this is very marketable, and the demand, obviously, on the backdrop of what's going on at the minute is unprecedented. So
yeah.
you do it.
John, thank you very much. If people want to get in contact with you, where can they find you? If they want to come and see you for sessions or to communicate with you, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, I've got a practice called Therapeutic Lifestyle Coaching. So I combine I look at patterns, behavior, the lifestyle that's driving it, and I've got obviously the techniques to address it. So you can find me on my website, or email me at therapeuticlc@gmail.com, or contact me directly through social media, Facebook, Instagram, and the likes.
Cool. And I'll put those links below as well. John, thank you once again. Go work on your tan while the sun is out, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.